Is your backhand slice iffy at best? When you get it in, you are just as surprised as your opponent. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you the two main things you need to concern yourself with hitting a better, more consistent backhand slice. And not only that, being able to figure out how to hit other types of backhand slices, because there's not just one, there's all kind of different ones that once you learn how to implement will absolutely change your ability to make your opponent go crazy. So let's get started. The very first thing we want to understand when we're thinking about hitting a slice is the racket face of contact, because the racket face is going to determine where and how high the ball goes. If you haven't heard me say this saying, which is the racket face sends it and the path bends it, which means that my racket face at contact, how it's set up, is going to send the ball. So you can see my racket face being very open right now, and I'm just going to pull straight through it, and I want you to watch what happens to the ball. The ball goes up, okay? Even if I pull slightly down, the ball goes up, okay? Now, what happens if I close my racket face at contact? Straight, you can see how it goes lower, and even if I start off higher, it's going to go lower. So that's the first element. The second element is the path. The path will bend the ball, meaning adding rotation. So you see some players maybe with a knifing slice, and what their path is very straight, just like that. My racket's slightly open. While I'm hitting straight, I'm penetrating the ball. But if you want to add more backspin, you start a little bit higher and come down, but you maintain the same racket face at contact. And this is why your backhand slice might be iffy at best. It's because as you're coming down, if you're trying to hit slice, you are having trouble maintaining the racket face. And so what you get is one ball like this. Ooh, hopefully not like that. You get one ball like that, and then you try and you get another ball like that, and you're like, I can't control it. And this is the very first part we want to work on. So what this means is, first we want to talk about the grip we want to have. I recommend a continental grip. The reason why I recommend the continental grip, when you have your hand in a continental grip, this is a very secure position. Now, some players might have more of an Eastern grip, which is probably a little bit stronger secure grip, but or when I say backhand Eastern, secure grip. But here's where I think sometimes it might get you in a little trouble. It limits your variety, meaning that for me to open up my racket face here, I have to really now open it up. And so where this might come or kind of like hold you back a little bit is if you want to play a defensive slice, it's a little bit awkward, at least for me, to open it up. And then if you want, let's say, a lower ball and it's really low, you have to equally open up. But if you want to close it down, you might close it and it might get really flat. I personally like a continental grip because it gives you a little bit more range with feel. So meaning that I can hit it with the racket face open, I can close it, and it's very easy to adjust for high balls and low balls. Now the trick is we have to make sure we are stabilizing the racket the right way. And so with a continental grip, and a really easy way I like to do continental grip is just hold your racket up head height, and you can see your wrist is nice and flat. If your wrist is bowing up like this, not a continental grip. And if it's got this hook, so we want it nice and flat. From here, what I want you to do is basically line up your racket with your arm. So you can see how this makes a straight line, and my racket is laid back. Also, my elbow's up. So it almost, I kind of think of it as like if you had a waiter's tray and you were like serving somebody drinks, what you do is grab the end of the tray and tilt it and let everything slide down. So you can see this motion here. Now, what I want you to really feel is that your forearm is in charge by, when I supinate, of the racket face angle. Yes, you can open and close it also with the wrist, but you're gonna have this combination of this big muscle here and this. So as I'm pulling and supinating just a little bit forward, you can see how when I supinate, it's gonna close the racket face. I can still open up my wrist. So you see this combination of these two playing. The importance of using the forearm is a big muscle. And I like to say you want to use big muscles to hit the ball. Now, this isn't the only muscle we're going to use, but if you're just using, let's say, the wrist, which a lot of players do, is that they're snatching at the ball just with the wrist, it becomes very hard to hit it consistently compared to using your forearm, pulling down where I'm going to be doing a tricep extension combination with supination. You're like, whoa, what just happened here? We just went through all these crazy words. But this combination of a little bit of supination and tricep extension, it puts the racket in a very strong position. So I want you to just try this motion here. I'm pulling down, basically tricep extension, and I'm supinating just a touch. Now, the reason why I'm supinating is because when I'm in this position, you can see how the racket's really open. So if I just pull straight, it's open, okay? But if I supinate just a little bit, ooh, that's what we want. And so by supinating just a little bit, right before contact, sets the racket face up also with the combination of wrists. You have two different ways of adjusting this. This now becomes your swing, where you can see how I'm pulling from my shoulder and then doing my tricep extension with a little bit of supination. It sounds like we're making like soup or something. It's like a recipe. So all I want you to do is practice this. Just start off here, and here's the deal. The first couple, I don't want you to supinate at all. I just want you to pull from the shoulder and the tricep extension, so it'll look like this. No supination. The ball's gonna probably go a little high. That's totally fine. But what I want you to see is if it's gonna be consistent, meaning that, boom. Now, here's the mistake you might be making, or some people make, is that they start getting wristy. And so by getting wristy, guess what it does? It changes the racket face angle, and it's being done with a small muscle, which means that it's gonna be hard to control. If you can keep this consistent like that, that's awesome. And so now what I want you to do after you can do that a couple times is add a little bit of supination in there. Because what'll happen is you'll start feeling that, ooh, yeah, it closes the racket face. Now, obviously if the ball's low, you're not gonna supinate as much and you're gonna keep the racket face open. This will take some training, but it's not hard to do if you just come out and drop feed some balls. This is the first level of what we wanna do. The second level is we need some force. We need some force. Now we do have some from the shoulder and the tricep. Those are bigger muscles, but the force I'm talking about is by coiling your shoulders and then pulling your shoulders and then allowing your shoulders and tricep to extend just like we've been doing. And so the way you wanna do this is when I get the ball, or the ball's coming to me, I'm gonna use my left hand to pull the racket back, which now creates this separation between my shoulders and hips. This energy is being stored. And then I'm gonna unleash that energy. Sorry, I shouldn't say unleash, that's way too aggressive of a word. And so what I wanna do from here, instead of unleash, that might be a little too aggressive, is when I'm coiled, I'm gonna turn my hips just a little bit, just a tad, because we don't need to add so much energy to this. But we're gonna turn my hips, which is gonna turn my shoulders, and then I let the power go by letting my shoulder and tricep extend through the ball. So if I toss it up, go here, oop, toss a little close, sorry, here, bingo. So you see how it's really solid. And I have the combination of big muscles supinating, okay? Now, here's the issue you may face when you supinate, is when we make contact, we want the racket head slightly behind the hand. If you're supinating this much, what happens now is you're having to take the force of the ball and battle. We don't want that. We want to feel as if we're pulling the racket forward. So as I get to this contact or this angle, I'm just going to keep pulling forward. So a great practice method is just to pull, find your racket angle that you want to achieve here, just like that. And this is coming from a little bit of supination, and then continue to pull it forward. So I'm going out here, out here. And the biggest thing is we're using big muscles, not small muscles. And if you combine this, you can use a ball machine or something to feed you balls so you can start practicing them. And so if we break everything down like we just did, I'm gonna have the ball machine feed me a couple balls and we're gonna take it step by step. Now that you understand what's supposed to happen, it's not as hard. So I'm gonna start off just by here, making sure I'm bending and pulling right here. I'm not gonna add the supination. So when the ball comes, it might go a little high because the racket face is open. Now I can adjust that with the wrist, but I don't wanna adjust it too much with the wrist. I wanna make sure the wrist is in a nice stable position. Oh, that's a little close. So you can see how it's going pretty high right now. It's actually pretty windy out here. Now, from here, I'm gonna add in some supination. So it closes the racket face a little bit, okay? So you can really see now how the ball's going even lower. Now, I'm gonna start adding in my shoulders. And so you get this combination of using my body to power the stroke and making sure that as I'm pulling through, it's nice and smooth. So, boom. So you can see how, bingo, solid slice, because I'm achieving the right racket face angle using big muscles, not snatching like with my wrists. If you're doing that, that's not gonna work. If you're also doing this, that's not gonna work. You see how it chopped? I'm making sure big muscles are pulling the racket through, and then I'm setting up by using my body. Now, we talked about different types of slices. Well, different types of slices are basically by adjusting the openness of the racket face when the ball comes. So if I wanted a defensive slice, I'm gonna open the racket face and let the ball float a little bit more. If I wanted a short slice, I might actually close the racket face and swing a little bit softer. By combining different angles of the racket face and different amounts of spin and speed into the ball, you'll get different types of shots and you'll be able to really master any type of slice you want. So like that one's more open. Ball machine decided to work now. This one will be open, a defensive, nice and high, gives me time. This one will be a little bit more cutting up, didn't open the racket face enough. So you can see even here, I'm adjusting my racket face based on the ball I want. And that's how you're gonna learn to hit a solid slice. Now, once you hit a slice, what are you gonna do with it? Well, hopefully you're gonna run around and maybe hit a forehand, which would be a great idea. And if you wanna learn how to do that, go watch this video because I'll show you how to hit the inside out forehand and the steps you need to take to get around after you hit the slice and start taking control of the point. Take care.